Good morning, everybody. Welcome into the show. Auburn defeats Kent State last night, 79-56. We'll get your thoughts on all of that as we move into it this morning. But improved to 3-0 on the young season. And again, a win's a win. It wasn't pretty. It started off dominant. Randy, you were at the game. I think we were up 19-3. And then they came back and cut it to 6, and then it was kind of a war of attrition at that point. But Auburn outlasts Kent State 79-56. We'll dive into the weeds here in just a minute.
Yeah, great game. Very good midweek atmosphere at Auburn. When we got to our seats a little bit after the game started, there were students trying to find seats all throughout the arena last night, and you can't blame them. I mean, it has become an impossible ticket and an impossible event to get into, and that's saying something. That was an expected win. I think we were favored by 22 points going into the ball game last night in a midweek game. To see the atmosphere the way that it was tells you all you need to know about what Bruce Pearl has built there at Auburn and how supportive the fan base is of a winner. We've always been supportive of a winner, and we've definitely got one with men's basketball right now.
Yeah, that's what Auburn's hanging its hat on right now. Not to be negative, it wasn't a pretty shooting night for Auburn last night. Again, I don't think you're ever going to question defense with this team. This team's always going to have good defense no matter where they're playing. They could be playing on the moon, Mars, in Neville Arena, wherever. They're going to play good defense. Question is they're shooting, and that's been the problem with Bruce Pearl teams here in the last couple of years is shooting the basketball. And last night, save a few of those late threes outside the arc was terrible. They ended up 6 of 24 from outside, but couldn't throw it in the ocean. And JP Pegues struggled shooting the ball again. He didn't make a field goal last night. Miles Kelly had some open looks. He wasn't able to hit. And look, I know that comes and goes, but that's the thing that scares me about this team. When you get in a war, the reason Auburn beat Houston the other night is they made shots. I mean, both teams played aggressive defense and both teams had intense pressure, but Auburn made shots and Houston made shots. And if you're not making those shots, you get beat by 10 rather than win the game. So that's concerning to me when we get in an atmosphere like up in Durham in a few weeks or wherever when you're on the road in a hostile environment. Can your defense be enough to win you a game?
Well, I hope I'm right with this, but I'll start with JP Pegues. He's not turning the ball over at all. He's one of the more efficient players in the country right now, if you look at efficiency rating. And the shots that he's taking, Brett, they're not he's not forcing shots. They're open shots. He's not knocking them down, but stroke looks really good. I think it's going to come. I really do. At times, Miles Kelly's shooting shots that are not open shots. I think he is at times forcing it, knowing that he is a streaky shooter and he can get it going the same as he did the first game there at Auburn Arena. So I can take those, but I do think JP Pegues is going to end up being a really strong part of this team. Right now, it hasn't necessarily been needed the way that Pettiford has played. Pettiford got 9 there in the second half. He didn't have any in the first half, and he played a lot of minutes there in the first half. But I'm not down on JP Pegues. I still feel like he's going to be highly needed. And another thing I like about him, Brett, is he doesn't show emotion when shots aren't falling for him right now. He goes and continues to play. You could tell he's been around a while. If I put up that many shots and they didn't fall, you'd see emotion on my face. But I think he's just mature and knows how to deal with it, and I think they'll come. So I hope I'm right. If I'm wrong, I'll be the first to say that this wasn't a transfer that worked out for Auburn. But right now, I still feel really good about JP Pegues, and I think he's going to be a key contributor moving forward.
Janai Broom, man, you talk about Mr. Consistency. 18 points last night, 8 of 12 shooting. And then Chaney Johnson had his best night as an Auburn Tiger. So, again, on a positive note, you don't have to have Miles Kelly and JP Pegues and Denver Jones and Todd Pettiford shoot the lights out every night. It could be Chaney Johnson that has an 18-point night. And, man, that's why you have a deep basketball team. You don't have to just put all the pressure on one guy. And then if Janai Broome does what he's going to do, he's going to have an off night. It's coming. He'll have a night where he scores 6 or 8. That's basketball. But he's going to give you 15 points a game most of the time. Sometimes he may give you 30. So he's a consistent person on this team that you can rely on. But it's the mix of who's going to show up. And then if you have a couple show up, almost impossible to beat this team with the way they play defense. Again, we're just pulling out and nitpicking here. We're not complaining. 79-56. I thought Kent State could have folded the tent early when they looked like they were going to get their doors blown off, and they didn't. They fought, physical, and they were 2-0 coming into this basketball game, and they had cut it to 6 and single digits late in the game. So kudos to them for fighting. And that coach has been there at Kent State for a long time, so he's built a program that competes. And it was a good test for Auburn, to be honest about it. And they're going to need to go in there and refine whatever. Every game's a learning experience. They go in and refine the little things that they didn't do well to improve and get better as they head into the next matchup.
Well, I'll hit on a couple of things you talked about there. First off, there were moments in the game where it got a little scrappy and both teams were going at each other, and the fan base was not overly excited about some of the calls the officials made. And so it made the players get a little bit edgy out there. But I'm going to brag on Kent State for a minute. Their physicality, Brett, was tough on us once they got their sea legs under them. Davis is a great player that anybody would want. He's probably 6'5", but he probably weighs 220, 225, very, very strong. He used that brute strength to just force us down in the lane at times and get some little chip shots. And I looked up at one time, I don't know how many he ended up with, but he had 19 with quite a few minutes left to play in the second half. So that was not a Kent State team that I think was way overmatched from a physicality standpoint. But we should have easily won the basketball game by 30-plus points if we knocked down shots. But that is what it is, and we're still able to go and win it convincingly there at the end. I'll talk about a couple of players you mentioned. Chaney Johnson was the best player we had on the court last night. I think you're about to see that consistently too, Brett, because when we go through him on the offensive end, he can go get a good shot. One of those little 6-7 foot floaters, a little turnaround one hand, semi-hook shot that he gets up, and he's making those shots. And he can extend above an even big defender inside. It's what kind of athlete that he was. But he had some posterizing dunks last night, 5 or 6 of them. And the athleticism's through the roof. And you can tell Bruce Pearl loves this kid. And, there's certain kids that we migrate to and really want to cheer for more than others. And I know a lot of his family. And his family his mom grew up in New Site, probably the best high school basketball player that community's ever had, was a state champion winner there in New Site. And so, when you know some of the family and you see some of the family, and every time I go to the ball game, like last night, I see uncles and cousins of his that are walking around in the arena, you cheer for those guys. I cheer for him. I don't know him personally, but I cheer for him a little more because I do know some of his folks. He had 18 points last night. Brett, they were shots from outside at the perimeter, knocked down a 3-pointer too. I think you're going to get 12 to 14 points per game with him if he gets enough minutes, and that is an X factor for this basketball team this year.
Well, what I've seen with him is his confidence, and
yes.
The play on the court is showcasing that. Maybe last year coming from North Alabama, he felt like, hey, I gotta work my way in, and he came into a really good basketball team, and maybe he was just trying to find his role and just content with being a good role player. And now over the off season and the way he's playing early in this season, he's like, give me the ball, I'll take over the game. But he does it in a teamy way, okay, for lack of better terms. It's not like he's arrogant, give me the ball, whatever. He's like, okay, I can handle this tonight if nobody else is going to. And so his confidence level is definitely matching being in the SEC now. And he, I think for himself, has decided